Hello YouTube, hi, my name is Mark and this is Nixon Motorsports. If you're new to this channel, we're all about motorsports, from racing to exotic cars and even simulators. Today's video, IR tire temp sensors, installation, tips, ideas, thoughts and such. With that, let's get into it. We're going to talk about this little IR tire temp sensor. Now, this one is from Izze, I-Z-Z-E, and it's a great little product. I've been using these for a while. Now, this is intended to be on the outside of your tire, not inside the wheel. And they make a couple products. Now, this one is a 16 channel, and it is a 120-degree viewing angle. This is a CAN-based device, so it's actually very cool, super easy to install. Now, I'm going to talk about, as I walk over here to the car, I'm going to talk about ideas for mounting. Anytime you talk about these on a race car, especially open wheel race cars like this, it becomes a challenge. Now, if you've seen previous videos, I used to have my rear tire temp sensors here on these tire kickers. I had them mounted roughly about like this, facing towards the rear of the, or the front side of the rear tire, right? I'm gonna move that to the rear side. Now, the front is always a challenge. Now, some teams or some cars have wings that are wide enough where you could actually have the tire temp sensor on the outer side of the front wing. Unfortunately, my front wings, they are not allowed to be that wide, so that's not an option. Now, I'm going to try to make some kind of a mount here, so I'll show you what I'm doing as I'm learning, going through that. My thought and my idea there is that as the wheel turns, that the sensor itself will move with it, right? That's the idea. Now, before I get into that, let me show you this, actually on the website. So this is an example. This is from Izze, their website. From the installation CAN base, you can see it's really simple. You have power, you have your CAN high, CAN low, and you simply run your network to the different sensors on the race car. Quite simple. Now, this gives you an idea of the sensor itself, and you can print this out to scale, which I did, but it shows you from the sensor itself, and these are dimensions as far as millimeters, both X and Y. You can see basically where your span of control, so to speak, is for the sensor. You need to do that when you figure out your mount. So I use that, and let me show you what I've done over here. Again, I have not made the mounts for the front. I've tried these before, and I'll come back to that in just a second. This is what I've printed out for my sensor mounting, kind of the orientation. Now, I printed this out to scale, which is a good idea. So if I place that down here towards the front of my front tires, you can see I get somewhat of an idea of where I need to mount the sensor itself. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm doing for the front. I'll do the same for the rear. Now, in the past, I had brackets that I mounted from my front upright that came up, and they were over the top of the tire here. They worked, actually, kind of dorky looking. And these might be just as dorky looking as those, but I'm going to try to mount this time towards the rear, kind of away from any drag and such on the front tire. So that's what's up. That is what's up next to work on the mount. So let's do that. I'll bring you back and show you ideas and mistakes, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay. Okay. So let me show you what I'm thinking now. Again, I'm trying to have a bracket. This is just my tie rod link here out of the way. Trying to have a bracket that I can attach to my upright, so when the wheel turns, the sensor will actually track at the same spot on the front tire, right? Now, the rear tire is easy. The front's kind of kind of a problem, right? So here's a bracket that I've made, and here's my idea. I'm trying to get an idea if I can find a spot here where my bracket is for my tie rod, and I'll be able to actually just bolt it in place there. So that's the thinking, and then I'll have to check clearances, you know, that type of thing, and then ultimately have to have some kind of a mount here for my sensor that will go here on the end. So yeah, let me keep playing with this, see what problems I find along the way trying to do this. All right, so I think this is going to work. Let me pan down here again. So I don't have this tight, but I have it in place. This is the bracket itself. I pulled the tie rod bracket out, as you can see here, and I sandwiched it in between. I'll have to double check my toe, obviously, when I'm done. But this seems to work. I had to notch it out here just a touch. As you can see when I move this around. It gets a little close, but I got about a 1/4 of an inch clearance there. So that looks like that will do the job, which is pretty cool. So let me put the tire on here. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, so I threw the tire on. I have plenty of clearance here on the inside. That will do the job. And I'll have to make a bracket here for my mount. And if I use my template here again, you can see I'll be able to mount the sensor at the right distance and orientation this way. So that will work good. I think that's going to do the job. Now, the negative with this here on the inside is, you know, I'll probably end up banging my leg on it, working on the car, getting in and out of it, that type of thing. And then, of course, my big tires for the trailer load and unload, I'll have to throw them on here in a minute and see if I need to make modifications. But otherwise, I think that's going to work. All right, so I have the front mounts built for the most part. I'm waiting for a little bit of bolts and nuts, hardware, that kind of thing. But this is what it will look like. Have a small little bracket here that the sensor will mount on, and I can slide it in and out this way if I need to for centering it on the tire. And then I have a small amount of adjustment here as well. You can see I made this little coupler, so I can actually, it's 2 reasons for that. So I can actually unbolt it, take it off. I can put my trailer big motorcycle tires on here without any issue. And then I simply put this back on and bolt it in place when I'm at track. Does that make sense? But it gives me some adjustment this way as well. So I got both left and right done. So here's the other side. Same thing. So I'll get the bolts in, get this mounted, get my sensors on, and then I could turn around and focus on my wiring. So I have a lot of leftover old wiring here. I'm going to cut all this apart, clean it up, get the CAN connections mounted here for the front. Now once I am done with that, I'll move back here to the back side and build my mounts for the rear. And haven't started that yet. I have a few ideas what that is going to look like, but let me finish up these front sensor mounts, get the wiring on, and maybe we'll power it up and just double check, see how they're working. All right, I have the front mounts in place. Let me show you what they look like. On the driver left here, I have a tire on this side. The wiring is not done, as you can see, but here's what it's looking like. I think it's going to work well. Of course, you're going to have to be careful getting in and out of the car, working on it with this here. That's just asking to get banged up, but that's no different than a barge board as well, right? So what I did, the sensor itself, I have it on a small little flange, so I have a little left and right movement here to center, and then I can move this dimension here with this coupler that I made. This also serves as the purpose of, I can take one bolt off, pull this thing out if I have a clearance problem with my big trailer motorcycle tires to get this thing in and out of the trailer. But that's what it's looking like. I think that's going to work well. Now, if you've seen before in the past, I had an adapter up here in the top. One looked really stupid. It worked, but really stupid looking. I think this looks a little better in the back side of the tire. If I spin around here from the front, you know, there's a small little piece here that will catch a little bit of air, but not so much. I think it's far better than having it up on top of the tire. Let me show you this side. I have the tire off here. You can see what it looks like from this angle. Not too bad. Again, these are the 120 degree sensors, the 16 channel. I did, by the way, per recommendation of Izzy, the outside channel 1 and channel 16, I did disable on my logger because the lens could interfere with the mount here. And so I thought, it's okay. So 14 channels usable will still do a pretty good job. Let me pan down here in the rear and show you what I'm going to do. So here's my idea. Now I had the sensor on my front tire kickers. The problem with that is I could not get them center of the tire. So I made these brackets, and I'm gonna mount these on this lip that I have here on the back end of my car, and I'll have a little bit of wiggle room here as far as, you know, left and right, and of course dimension this way to the rear tire. But that's my plan for the rear, right? So from here, let's focus on the front. Let me get the wiring in place here in the front, and I'll power up Motec and just see how those sensors are working, okay? All right, so I have the front tires, the sensors mounted, wiring connected. I'm not wrapped up with it, I'm not done, but I have it plumbed here on both sides just for the purpose of testing at the moment. So here's what I'm doing. I went ahead and powered up Motec, my logger itself, and I'm looking at the front right tire here, and you can see the 14 different channels. Remember that I disabled channel 1 and channel 16. Of the front right, you can see they're right at about 20 C here at the moment. I took the heater gun. Let's see, is it still warm? Yeah, a little bit here. Let's do a little more. Watch this. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of heat right here to this section of the tire. I just want to make sure the sensor's working. That's all I'm doing. I'll show you, okay? So just a little bit of heat. Okay, let's turn that off. And again, let's go back here. Right, so you can see 21, 22 roughly. So now let's roll this down here and let's see what it looks like. There you go. So it's actually showing, it is reading. You can see the temps came up quite a bit. I didn't heat it up that much, of course, right? But if I roll it back up out of the way, you can see it drops down quickly to 21. That's C, not Fahrenheit. And so the rear, right here, you can see the rear is not working. They're at 0, 0, 0. That's because I don't have the rear sensors connected yet. So I need to now focus on the mounts for the rear, these guys. Get the sensors wired up, get that cleaned up a little bit. Make sure everything's working first. Then I'll go ahead and clean up the wiring and tuck it all up together. But that's basically it. So from this point, let's get down to the rear. Let's get that in place like I did the front. And we'll do the same thing and make sure all 4 channels are working right. But just panning over here just for a minute, you know, I think, okay, it's my opinion, I just did this, but I like these mounts here. Again, I know they're gonna be a problem from banging into it, working on the car, getting in and out of it and so on. But that's the same problem I have here, these small barge boards. So that's the only negative. With those behind the tire, I think is definitely better. You know, so this way, you know, whenever you turn left or right, whatever, it's going to track and stay right there centered with the tire. Pretty cool. So, all right, I'll bring you back once I get these rear mounts on and these sensors in place and show you that. Tire temp sensors, why should you consider this? Now, look, you can use your standard tire probe where you roll the car in, you take a read, right? That's one way to do it, works pretty good. Now this gives you, though, live data on track, so you're able to see the tire as it evolves into its heat range, as it cools down the straights, as you approach different corners and so on. And so you log all that. It's a great tuning tool. It is. So for that reason, I would definitely recommend that you consider your tire temp sensors. So just a teaser really quick. Again, after I get these new sensors on, get it out on the track, I'll show you more detail, but why does it make sense to have tire temp sensors? Now let me pan over here really quick. This is a Motec worksheet that I have, and you can see a track map here. You can see on this side I have outside, middle, inside for my front left, front right, rear left and right, and so on. Now what's kind of cool, and this is just one example of worksheets, as I move through the track here, and you can't see it all here at the moment, but as I'm going through a corner, you can see the different temperature across the tire, which is pretty trick, right? So that's just one example. Now, if I pan over here, I have another view on kind of a graphical view of what that looks like, and some histograms, and so on. And here's the raw data, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll show you that after I do a couple runs with the new sensors mounted, and walk you through that and show you what I'm doing. Hopefully something that will be useful for you, okay? I have the rear mounts on. Let me get over here so you can see this one with a little more light. They'll be functional. How long they stay on here, you know, that's gonna be interesting. Obviously, if anybody came up and touched me from the rear, you know, it'd just bend these things quite easily, right? As far as picking up the tire temperature, though, it's going to work extremely well. So that's the rear, and the front I've already showed you. So I need to do a little testing on the rear here, just like I did on the front. So I'll do that once I get the wiring done here, and kind of button it up at that point. Now, let me throw this out. Adding sensors like this on an open wheel race car, you know, could be somewhat of a challenge. The rear, not so much. The front, for sure. I would say, I'm sure some of you watching this channel probably have had or know of great ideas of how to mount these. You know, if you do, send your comments over. I'd really be interested. You know, here's the front again that I showed you earlier here in the back side. You know, again, my problem is my front wing, it's sitting up here on the mount, is too narrow, right? I mean, the front end plates come about here roughly, and the only way I could do it would be just to shoot off at an angle, and I have no ability to mount on the front wing like I've seen, you know, F1 does as an example. Again, you know, the best way would be to have the inside wheel mounted temp sensors. Again, they make the 16 channel on the inside like I've mentioned before. I just have not been able to do that with these wheels. So anyway, let me get this rear wired up. We'll do one more kind of system check and take it from there, okay? All right. Before I forget, will they fit? And they do. So these are motorcycle tires, as you can see, mounted on this special hub and adapter I made some time ago. These are great for getting the car up off the ground, roll it in the trailer. Super easy. So I was curious if they were gonna fit. I thought I'd have to pull this thing apart every time, but you can see, no problem. The rear is the same. Who figured? So that's actually very nice. Again, I have the temperature sensors all installed. I've done a basic test I'm going to do another test here in a minute, and I'll show you how and why I'm doing that, but just to verify that each of the sensors are working. So let me walk around the car. So the front, here's my front right. Again, you can see the sensor here in the rear mounted to the upright like I've showed you. So that's the look from the front right. Roll back here to the rear. So these are the mounts that I put in the back of the car. Again, on the back side of the tire, my thought was to try to eliminate any unnecessary drag. We'll see. Again, this is protruding out here. You know, both front and rear, these are just waiting to be banged on and bent and that kind of thing. So we'll see how well those work. Now I have them positioned right. They're centered. I have the right distance from the tire itself, so they will work well. Now, to test these, so I've initially powered up Motec. Here, let me pen over here. Powered up Motec. This is the 180 logger itself. Now, if I go to monitor channels, here are all the channels that come up that are being monitored. Right? So if I scroll down here as an example, here's the front left. You see temperature 2 through 15. Remember, I took channel 1 and channel 16 off because of the mounting. So I can scroll over here and you can see they're all reading each of the 14 channels. But to prove that it works, here's what I'm going to do. So I put a mark on the tire like this. And what I'm going to do is grab a good old handy heat gun like this. And I'm just going to put a little bit of heat on the tire this way. Not a lot, just a little bit. And so when I then roll the tire back this way, where the tire, where the heat section is actually in line with the temperature gauge, I should see a reading, right? These numbers should actually go up. Make sense? So I'm going to do that on each corner. Let me do one example. Let me heat up this, this rear right here really quick, and let's see what it does. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you found it of interest. The 16-channel tire temp sensor, it's a great tool for your race car. I would suggest you look into it, whether it's Izzy or any other product out there. They really provide a wealth of data when you're trying to optimize your tire performance. Follow-on video to this, so part 2 will be in the next few weeks. Once I get the car out on the track, gather, capture data, of course, and I'll spend a fair amount of time on that video showing you how I use the data for tires themselves and the different worksheets that I've created in Motec. I think you'll find that of use. Now, whether you use AIM or any other product, the principles will still apply, so I think you might find that of value. So I would ask, subscribe if you haven't, hit that notification thing, so when this part 2 video comes out, you'll be notified for that. But that's it for now. I appreciate you watching. Send your comments, your thoughts, any advice, any solutions that anyone has had that has worked well for tire temp sensors, please share. And but that's it for now. I appreciate it. Until next time, ciao.